Oh, hour number 3, certainly rolling along right here on the early line on a Wednesday morning, Donnie Rightside. And now we welcome in the one, the only. It's Joe Lisi into the program. Wednesdays with Lisi. Has a nice little ring to it here as we get down to all the hitting details, Joe. How do we feel?
I feel good. I thought I was going to see you tomorrow, and here it is on Wednesday, hump day. I get an early morning fix of DRS, so I'm looking forward to it.
Now, look, on other shows, you might ask the questions when I'm supposed to ask the questions. But on this show, Joe Lisi, we go in order, and I like to ask the questions first, which, again, college football, right up your alley. I watched this game just about last week, Joe, start to finish. Notre Dame and NIU, one of the biggest upsets you are going to see. And where does that leave Notre Dame is the biggest question. Last week, Joe, they were number 5. This week, they're now number 18. Before we get to the matchup on Purdue, what happened with Notre Dame last week? 4-touchdown favorite at home. You can't lose that game.
Oh, absolutely. And I talked about it with Kevin in Game Time Decisions. The fact that they came out for a season opener after the beating that they gave Texas A&M in the interior, and they come out flat. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't shut down NIU. They lost the turnover battle. Riley Leonard was completely inconsistent, and that's on Marcus Freeman. That's a coaching type of situation. Donnie, the numbers were amazing. I mean, Notre Dame, I believe, and I have to double check, but when I did that game, they have never lost to a MAC opponent. A week 1 matchup opening up in terms of South Bend since the days of the 1800s or whenever they started. They had like a 910 winning percentage opening day. So it's fine that they didn't cover, but to lose the game outright as a 28.5-point favorite to Northern Illinois, not even picked as one of the better teams in the MAC, that was a pitiful performance, and that falls solely on Marcus Freeman.
I'm pretty surprised here because we're going to take a look at some of the numbers here for Notre Dame now on the season and what is left of it here. As I said, at 1-1 to make the playoffs, it's a 3-1 price, which I do think is substantially lower than what I would actually rate it at. You see, to win it all, that is at 100 to number, which I agree with there. I don't think there's any chance of that. So moving forward, and here's some of the topics that I love to bring up. Like typically, Joe, if you're in a conference, right, and we can equate this to like Florida State. They're down and out. They lost their first 2 games. But theoretically, they can still win the ACC, which means it doesn't matter what anybody else does in college football. You get that automatic bid into the playoff. Notre Dame is not in a conference. They don't get the automatic bid. Is the season over already for Notre Dame after just in the expanded playoff era?
No, I don't think it is. I think 3-1 is fair. They went from -170 in the offseason to now 3-1. They still play USC, assuming that USC is for real, right? They get the victory over LSU. They're going to face Michigan in a couple of weeks. They're already 8.5, or they were preseason 8.5-point dogs in that matchup. If they go into the big house and get that victory, and let's say they're going toe-to-toe with Ohio State as the best team in the Big Ten, and Notre Dame could get that win, Donnie, then that'll catapult them to potentially a top 10 ranking. But there is no margin of error. They play Army and Navy on the schedule. They play Miami of Ohio, another MAC opponent. You have to run the table. At worst, you have to be 11-1, I believe, right now, unless Florida State can right the ship because they get them in South Bend later in the year.
Now, let's take a look at this week's game because you're going to take on a Big Ten opponent. Purdue won their opener. They're 1-0. Notre Dame obviously comes in this game 1-1. If we see the graphic here that's going to be posted, Notre Dame is a favorite. They're supposed to be a favorite. But the look-ahead lines, Joe, 17s, 16.5. Yeah. They plummeted to below 10 now at -9.5 and a total of 45.5. Like the way most of our handicapping minds work is we're trying to find a team that's like buy low and sell high at this point. Notre Dame might not be lower at any time over the next 10 years after a loss to NIU. Is there a chance that you're buying back on them this weekend going up against Purdue, or was that loss last week indicative of what's to expect from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish?
No, I think it could be a bounce back spot, but it is a tricky line, right? It opened up at like 11.5, 12. Now we're seeing 9.5. Donnie, they've won 8 straight in the series against Purdue. The last time Purdue beat Notre Dame was back in 2007. The last time they played in regards to this matchup was back in 2021. Here's the thing. Hudson Card, the quarterback for Purdue, threw 4 touchdowns, completed 90% of his passes, 24-25 in regards to the beatdown of Indiana State, and they get basically 12 days of preparation. They only played on August 31st, so it's like a bye right after the first game of the regular season, which is ridiculous if you think about it. So the extra prep is why I think you're seeing the line come down in favor of the Boilermakers, and they're typically a live dog. But if I'm going to bet this game, I probably would take Notre Dame in a bounce-back spot, but I don't love it, Donnie. I'm not betting this game in any capacity. I would probably go Notre Dame, and I would take a shot on over 45.5.
Marcus Freeman said they bought into the hype last week, taking on NIU. You could buy into whatever hype you want. It's not as if it's like, hey, we're playing a division opponent or a conference opponent favored by 4.5. You're favored by 4 touchdowns at home. You should walk onto the football field and win that with ease. They didn't. You'll probably get the best version of Notre Dame this week. Why? Because the coach certainly is going to have their ears. Let's take a look at another top 25 matchup this weekend. 12:45 p.m. Missouri, the home team. Boston College, the road team. But both teams, 2-0 and 2-0. So 4 wins combined. Boston College comes in ranked 24th. Missouri ranked number 6. How are we lining this football game off as a heavy favorite towards Missouri here at 16.5?
I'm going to shock some people. I think this is a fishy line. I think they're begging you to take Boston College and Thomas Castellanos and a rushing attack that's averaging 282 rushing yards per game. That goes right into the strength of Missouri. They're only giving up around 68 yards on the ground. They're converting Missouri as 60% in regards to third down offense. They do have, I believe, the better quarterback in regards to the passing attack. Brady Cook over Castellanos. And again, the last time these two teams played was a couple of years ago, went right down to the fourth quarter. But again, I do feel Missouri has a speed advantage in this matchup. Luther Burden going against that secondary. I think Missouri starts fast. It could be maybe a 10-point game, 13-point game, and they tack one on to win this ball game by 20. I'm going to lay it here, shockingly, in this ball game.
Yeah, Castellanos certainly a fun quarterback to watch play. You saw him in that Florida State game. They were the better team all the way through. Maybe the building of some good things by Bill O'Brien back up there for BC. Let's move to another one here. Midwest action, the Oklahoma Sooners at home 2-0 in the season, ranked number 15, going up against Tulane, 1-1. Lost a tough one there to Kansas State. This line, minus 13.5, just below 2 touchdowns, and a total of 47.5. Tulane, Oklahoma. Expectations here, Joe.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the dog here. I was on Tulane against Kansas State, and I was on Houston against Oklahoma. Part of it is I'm not a big buyer of Jackson Arnold. Still a little bit inconsistent in the passing attack. They're only averaging around 166 passing yards per game. And you look at the rushing attack of Tulane, 195 yards per game. Their quarterback, Mentz, is pretty good. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. They're battle-tested. I know they lost a tough home game against a top-ranked opponent in K-State, but they're going on the road. I just don't think Oklahoma's all that good, even though they're very good in run support. Give me the points with the Green Wave on the road in this matchup, Donnie.
By the way, let me ask you another quick one here before we get to the break. Michigan and Arkansas State. It's the same thing that we talk about like with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Not a great performance on their end, but Notre Dame lost as a 4-touchdown dog. Michigan was actually a dog in their own building. Let's call it a touchdown. Bounce back performance from Michigan this week. They're favored by close to 24 points with a total around 50 here. What can we expect from Michigan coming off of that embarrassing loss to Texas the week before?
They might win, but I'm not going to bet that game. I would take the points with Arkansas State. Sharon Moore, they just signed his contract, I believe, this morning. So that's a boost. Yeah. I would wait till Michigan gets one cover. Then I would take them. I can't bet this game hoping they cover this game. They get a win, but Arkansas State keeps it close, I think.
Yeah, it should be a good weekend of college football. And again, we are moving quickly throughout the season. Big games will be played. We're certainly going to determine who those final playoff spots will be a little bit later down the line. But a lot is going to go to determine that here. We're going to flip it over to the NFL up next year because we got an awesome game on Thursday Night Football that you're certainly not going to want to miss. And we'll preview that. And also, Pro Football Today crew in the building tomorrow night. It's Joe Lisi. It's Donnie Rightside. And I can't remember the third guy that shows up to that TV show. Maybe it'll come to me over the break at this point, but it's Joe and Donnie talking football. Putting this out, back after the break.